I'd like to welcome you to the sneak peek of CXP 13. Today's presenter will be Voxeo's Director of Mobile Strategy, Tobias Goebel. If you have any questions throughout the course of the webinar, please put them in the question box and we'll answer them at the end. Thank you.
Thank you, Maddie. So this is Tobias from Voxeo's product management team. So today I'm going to talk about Voxeo CXP 13. As you might be aware, we recently won the Enterprise Connect Award, a Best of Show Award, and we're very proud of that. And we'd like to give you a sneak peek of what CXP 13 will be all about, which essentially is unifying your customer self-service across all the different mobile channels that are available, like voice, text, social, and we have placed a specific focus on the mobile channel itself, mobile apps, with the CXP 13 release. So a little bit of background on why that is relevant at all, and why you should consider going mobile with your own customer care and customer self-service offerings. If you look at some of the stats, 55% of mobile subscribers today own smartphones, and 2/3 of new purchases are smartphones. We actually see a huge uptake on smartphones in general throughout the world. They're actually one of the fastest growing technologies ever invented in human history, only surpassed by tablets, which are also addressed with with our product. And 32% of a study here done by Nielsen in 2012 prefer to communicate by text than over the phone. And that also is a rising number. So you need to address these new channels of communication, because they don't only apply to communications among friends and family, but people are now kind of expecting the same convenience of these channels also when communicating with businesses and when doing customer service and getting customer care. I mentioned that before. So tablet shipments are huge. They're expected to exceed notebook shipments in 2013 and almost match the total PC shipments by 2015. So that is gigantic. You have to be ready to address that. So companies must address the needs, the preferences, and the priorities of their customers. Otherwise, the risk is that these customers take their business elsewhere. So Voxeo CXP 13, those of you who are not familiar with the product in general, Voxeo CXP makes it easy to build, deploy, manage, and analyze and report on customer self-service applications across multiple contact channels, among them being voice, in the form of IVR, interactive voice response with speech and touchtone support, text, which can really mean a lot. It can be SMS based. It can be based on USSD, which is a texting protocol in the GSM networks, predominantly outside of the US. It can work on Join or RCS, which is also a new standard among carriers worldwide to offer enhanced and rich communications applications and communication services. It could mean Twitter, and it could mean instant messaging. And mobile web apps, obviously, which is the focus, as I mentioned earlier, of CXP 13. So with the 13 version, we substantially improve the mobile web app capabilities with a dedicated developer interface and a lot of enhanced server features. And we also provide a business user interface to control and modify your mobile web apps for your customers. One of the challenges that companies today face is that with this abundance of channels on these smart devices, whether they're phones or tablets, it's hard to provide a consistent customer experience across the channels. It's hard to keep track of what customers are doing across the channels. And it's also not a given that once a customer moves from self-service over to the contact center, that they are actually talking to someone who knows what they have tried already, and to can basically continue the conversation that started in self-service versus start over from scratch. So that is the challenge that we're addressing with our product. So offering multi-channel mobile self-service solutions, the principle behind all that is design once, deploy anywhere. So design your business logic once and deploy it on any channel that is available on these mobile devices. Application lifecycle support. It's not only about creating an app, maybe putting it on the app store, and then that's it. There's an ongoing life cycle of your applications. You need to make constant changes, adaptations. You want to add, new business rules as they come along in your enterprise. You want to add, new business logic, things like that. So you need a full platform that supports this life cycle of your cross and multi-channel applications, not just a design tool, or not even just outsource that the work for mobile web or mobile app development, and not have any control over what is essentially your customer front door. So with CXP, we support both developers for service creation, administrators for deployment and management aspects of your applications, and the business with very in-depth reporting and analytics, but also giving them some control over application configuration so that they can own parts of the experience and don't have to go through expensive and extensive, IT cycles or development cycles to make simple changes. We feature cross-channel reports and analytics through business intelligence integration. And we also have an enterprise-grade backend integration framework, so you can plug in your customer front end with all of your back office systems, whether it's CRM systems or ERP or whatever kind of databases, whether they're on-premise or in the cloud. We can interface with them. We have a very flexible framework for connecting to these data sources. And our product is offered both in the cloud and on-premise. So we have a global deployment of any Voxeo product in our global cloud with 6 data centers across the world. And we also sell this as software, licensed software on-premise. So you have the flexibility to choose the deployment model that fits your needs and your requirements. Now, as for the presentation today, I want to walk you through 3 main topics here: how to build web apps with Voxeo CXP, then how to unify your self-service offerings across all mobile channels, and then how to manage and evolve your self-service applications. So starting off, what are web apps? Now, if you look at what choices developers have today of mobile apps, they have 2 choices essentially. They can choose to create the code for the app in the programming language that is the preferred or available programming language for the respective mobile operating system. So if you look across the landscape today, we have a variety of mobile operating systems. Obviously, Apple's iOS and Google's Android in the lead. Microsoft is coming up with Windows 8. BlackBerry has made a jump again with BlackBerry OS. Nokia's Symbian is still out there. Samsung has announced Tizen as a new operating system this year. Ubuntu has released their version of a mobile operating system, Ubuntu Touch. And Mozilla came out at Mobile World Congress last month with Firefox OS. All of them use different programming languages and provide different SDKs to code for these environments. So Apple has, you need to learn and use Objective-C. For Android, you need to code in Java. For Microsoft, in C, C++, or C#, and so on. So that obviously has a lot of drawbacks because you need to have the expertise, and you need to recode your applications for each and every device out there, not device, but each and every platform, to offer it to your whole customer base essentially. Or you go the second route, which is you create HTML code, which is essentially a website, as you know. This will become an app that is run in the mobile device's browser, and this is what we call web apps. Now, this is the approach we're taking with CXP 13, and it has a lot of benefits. There's 0 footprint on the devices because it's just a web page that you're browsing to. You're not downloading any substantial package of software and installing it on your device. Even the process of that is now made very simple and easy with the app stores. It's still, it's not a given that, someone wants to have, hundreds of apps on their home screens, and they do take away disk space. So with web apps, that goes away, but you can still have icons on the home screen. They're basically bookmarks to these web apps, but they don't require much, if any, on-device space. One of the biggest advantages really for businesses is there's no dependency on the app stores. If you contribute an app to, especially the Apple App Store, you have to go through a review process. They want to make sure that whatever you put up there, follows their standards and requirements. But that adds a delay to your release process. You can't quickly make changes that go beyond, simple wording adjustments. So web apps don't have that problem. You can do real-time updates, which means you have much shorter release cycles. You have a large developer base. Obviously, any web developer that knows HTML and JavaScript and cascading style sheets, which is the standard for the web, can program in HTML5, which is the specific version that is nowadays the standard for mobile web apps. So you don't need to have specialized skills and expensive engineers. Web apps give you cross-platform support. No need to recode the app to support multiple devices or multiple platforms. That is probably the biggest advantage for anyone that wants to have the biggest outreach for their applications. And it also works on older HTML-enabled devices. You don't have to have the latest generation of a smartphone. It can work on old feature phones that do have an HTML browser embedded. The way we do web apps in CXP 13, so we use HTML5, as I mentioned before, and we use the jQuery mobile framework, which is a touch-optimized web framework based on jQuery. So we utilize that to get the cross-platform support. So this framework takes care that an app that you build looks fine on the Apple, different iPhones, iPod Touch, and iPad, all the Android devices, BlackBerry, Windows, etc. So cross-platform support is provided through the use of this jQuery mobile framework. Now, what about going native? What about, what if you want to have your app that is written in Voxeo CXP on the Apple App Store or on Google Play? Well, then you can package it up. So we obviously, work with PhoneGap, which is one of those tools out there that you can use to wrap your web app with some native code to package it up for submission to an app store. So you can use Voxeo CXP to build out the content of your app. You can then package the resulting web app as a native app using PhoneGap, and then submit your app to the various app stores. All right, so how do I build web apps with CXP? As you probably know, web apps consist of pages, one page at a time, and the pages either display some information or they ask you for input. In this case, for example, on the left-hand side, some login screen. In the middle here, you see a menu, so that's another type of page, is a menu. And the right-hand side is, again, some form of input because, combined with the presentation of information. So here we see a list of appointments coming up for healthcare, and you can, basically select one and get further details. So that's why it's an input. It's allowing to select an item. So Voxeo CXP implements an object-oriented approach for building multi-channel applications and also for building web apps. We have this notion of dialogue objects. This stems from essentially the world of IVR, where obviously you're building out spoken dialogues. But if you look at what a dialogue really is, dialogue is just about turn taking, right? So the app prompts the user for input. The user provides input back to the app. This is the paradigm, the ultimate paradigm that is behind any IVR application, but also behind any app essentially, because you're moving, you're navigating, through the pages by clicking and touching and entering information and looking at information that the app presents to you. So we kind of borrow this dialogue paradigm from the world of IVR, but we apply that to web applications and interactive text response applications as well, ITR. So with CXP, you can also build two-way SMS apps that present information by sending an SMS and respond to input provided through responses from the user. As an example, so we have this concept of an input object. The main job of it is to collect user input through forms. So the very basic structure of what an input object generates is shown here on the right-hand side. So you have what we call the page content top, which goes at the top of the page. Underneath, what we call the title, which is defined somewhere else in the general properties, in particular in the module. So we then have editors in our tool to essentially allow you to configure the content that should appear here at the top of the page. And this could be text or also a combination of text and HTML code and markup, as well as references to other objects that represent images, videos, audios, and the like. The input elements shown here in the middle of the screen are coded in the input elements section. So this could be anything from text fields to switches to sliders, etc. And then we have another section underneath that, which is the page content bottom. And then you can also influence how this submit button should look like. So there's a special section in the editor where you can define the label, the icon, the page transition style when moving away from this page, etc. We also give you access to the underlying HTML code and JavaScript code. So you can actually tweak the exact appearance as you would like it to be. So you have full control. You're not bound to just working within this IDE. We added a couple of new dialog objects specifically for the web channel or web app channel. We have a new image object that you can use to represent images. You can also provide alternative text as you're used to from web programming. And we have a new layout object, which is the place where we expose the actual HTML source code and make it editable by you. So you can go in, make changes on the code level, again, as I said before, to have full control over how the application will appear for the end user. Now, in terms of creating a particular theme for your application, a particular look and feel, you can use jQuery Mobile's theme roller, which is a tool that's provided on the web. You can drag and drop the color schemes. You can configure the button layout, whether it's rounded or square, what the colors are, and much more. And ultimately, if you want to apply that to your application, you just go ahead and download this package as a zip file and reference it in your CXP application. So very easy to create, a corporate UI style and make use of it in your application. For instance, in your modules, to have them, applied globally to your application. Now, I mentioned before that web apps can actually be put on the home screen. On the Apple iOS devices, the way you do that is in your application, and this is for all the developers among you that have some experience with CXP. You go to the tuning section of your main object, your first object essentially, and add the parameter add to home and set that to true. What that will do is it will make the iPhone in the end pop up a little dialog window here that says install this web app on your iPhone, tap this key, and then add to home screen. I will demonstrate that to you in a little while once I switch over to a live demo of CXP 13. So that way, it will appear as an icon on your home screen, and you can obviously configure the logo and the icon itself that you want to use here for your application. All right, so that was kind of a sneak peek at how to build web apps in Voxeo CXP. Now, what about going over to the other channels and adding IVR, or what about adding web apps capability to an existing IVR application that you had? So let's talk a bit about how to unify your self-service offerings across all the mobile channels you want to offer. First of all, this is our new IDE. It's still based on Eclipse as it was before, but we now added substantial features, especially around dedicated channel views. So if you're developing in one view, in one channel and one channel only, you can basically hide everything that's not related to what you're doing. So if you're building a web app, you don't want to see IVR related fields and editors and buttons. So by switching to the web view, you can essentially turn the IDE over into a pure web developer if you want. So we also hide any objects that aren't relevant for web application development. So for instance, for example, making a recording, doing a call transfer, those are things that are specific to the phone channel, to the IVR channel. So we hide the corresponding objects here in the IDE. We still present this unified view of your business logic. So you get to code your business logic in CXP Developer, and not necessarily you shouldn't be looking at it from the perspective of you're building your phone tree for your IVR. We give you this HTML5 code editor, as I mentioned before, when you're working on your apps. We give you a device simulator, which simulates the look and feel of your application. We also make it very easy to test on an actual physical device. So you can scan this QR code from a phone that's in the same wireless network as your machine. And that way you can test out your app on an actual physical device on your own phone, smartphone, or tablet if you like to. Again, on the channel-specific views, so for those of you who are familiar with Voxeo CXP or voice objects, as it used to be called before, in the voice channel, for instance, the input object had three main sections here. One was called the input request. The second one was grammar, for providing your speech and DTMF grammars. And the third one, result handling, for handling the responses from the caller. If you're opening an input object and you're currently in the web channel view, you will see different sections, but they do similar things. So what used to be called input request and still is in the voice channel is called page content top in the web channel. And we added a page content bottom section where you can define page content for the bottom of your page. And then for the main screen, you will have your input elements. That's why we have this new section here. If you're building interactive text applications like two-way SMS or interactive text response applications, the input object will show the message content section here, again, something we call grammar, and then again, the result handling. So it's different views, and really the benefit is if you're just developing for one channel, just focus on that one channel and don't be confused by settings that aren't applicable to this channel. If you're building a multi-channel application, then with this you can focus on one channel at a time and then switch the view later as you move from developing and specifying your different channels. So that's something I'm going to demonstrate also in the live part. So going back to the idea of what we present here with the flow, you should really think of this as being your business logic. So if you see this the flow here, the business flow of our smart health application, which is our new showcase app, which we will release with CXP 13. There's a greeting step, there's a get credentialed step, and there's a main menu. For your web app, this kind of serves as your sitemap, if you like. It's a representation of the different pages and the flow of the pages as the user navigates through them. For your IVR app, well, it's a representation of your phone tree. For your ITR app, for your interactive text response app, it's essentially a representation of your text flow. But ultimately, you're building out your business logic in an abstract form, and you're letting the tool then deploy your application as a phone, a web, or a text application. So the idea being, design once, deploy anywhere. One IDE, one backend integration layer, one reporting framework, and also just one skill set you have to train your developers on, and only one throat to choke in terms of the vendor relationship. So it really helps organizations to streamline their customer self-service offerings across all the different channels. All right, with that, I'd like to switch over to a little live demo of the tool. I'm going to show you, for one thing, our new smart health application, at least some first screens of that. We're not fully finished yet with that application. It was designed by one of our certified partners, Waterfield Technologies, and it was implemented by ourselves. So let me switch over to the Eclipse environment. As you can see here, if you launch CXP, you'll end up in Eclipse, and this is CXP developer. So this is the front end specifically meant for developers of your applications. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a simple web app that asks the user for some login credentials and then presents a main menu. And after that, I'm going to try to turn that into an IVR app. Now all of this is live, so bear with me. I'm going to do this in front of your eyes from scratch. So I'm going to create a new project here on the left-hand side. I'm going to call that CXP 13 demo. And since I'm starting out in the web, I will change the default channel view down here, which is a new setting, to web. So I'm going to make this a web-only application at first. So when I enter this project by double-clicking, I end up in the web view, which is shown here up here with this icon. I can always switch, and I'll do that later, but right now I want to focus on building out my web flow. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create an input object to ask for the login credentials, which should be account number and PIN for my application. So double-click on input. Up comes the editor for the input object. So we have our now familiar page content top, page content bottom here, and then our input elements. So this will be the first page that the mobile user will see. So I'm going to call this tab login. Under page content top, I can now enter in the content box, I can enter pretty much any text or HTML markup that I want. So for instance, I could do some header if I wanted to, and obviously then associate that with certain CSS styles for building out the look and feel of my application. I'm going to call this login, so I'm going to close it here, and I'm going to add input elements. For that, I'm going to add two fields. The first one I will call account number, and I need a variable to hold that account number. So I'm going to go here to the right-hand side, find the variable object, and drop it into the variable field. I'm going to call that account number as well. Okay, now I want to create a widget for this. I want to make this a numeric input field. So my widget type, and that's a new sub-object, if you like, in Voxeo CXP 13. I can choose between these: checkbox, drop-down, list, menu, radio buttons, range, switch, and pure text. Now in my case, it's a pure text widget, but with a data type being numeric. So I want to basically have the numeric keypad open. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this to number here. And once I do that, I get a few new fields here where I can define things like, for instance, the placeholder of this text field. This will be text that will be shown embedded in the input field. So let me put in something like enter your 8-digit account number. I might want, a validation pattern here. So I say, okay, 0 to 9 with 8 digits. The maximum length of how many, digits someone can enter should also be 8. I can provide things like minimum value and maximum value, and some other settings here. I'm going to make this a required value, okay, so that the user cannot step over this. I'm going to save the object. It'll show up here on my left-hand side, input, login. And I'm going to add a second one and make that a pin. So I'm going to right-click on this, say add item. Again, I have a second field now. I'm going to call this pin. Enter pin. And for this, I'm going to use the password data type so that this will be a text field where whatever I type in will not be visible to anyone looking at the screen. So you will just see little asterisks. Okay, I'm also going to make this a required value, and the validation pattern is 0 to 9, 4 of that kind. All right, so with that, I'm going to leave it, and I have to find my login step. Now I need to put that in some sort of order, and I'm going to do that with the module object. So I'm going to create a new module. The module is very simple. It has a title section and an object sequence. So I'm going to call this start, and I'm going to drag my login in here, save it, and it shows up here on the left-hand side. And I can now say display dialog to get kind of a flow representation of my business logic so far. So here's my login step. And after that, I now want to present a main menu. I'm going to skip the backend verification step for just the sake of this demo here. So let's put the menu here. Let's call it main menu. The menu object has page content top, menu items, and page content bottom, so very similar to the input object. At the top, I will use a header and call it main menu. And as my menu items, I want this to become a banking app ultimately, so I'll offer options like account balance and money transfer. I'm going to type in some label here for that menu item, the first one that will be displayed here for that page. I'm going to create a new module that will ultimately represent the flow for account balance. What I'm going to do in this module is I'm going to create a dummy output object that just displays the message under construction so that we have something here to show. Okay. Now, what else do I need to do? For presenting that menu item, I can go to menu item output. I can then type into the content box, what should be shown as either an icon or text for this item. So I'm going to type in account balance, and ultimately also going to choose an icon here that I want to see. I want to see the icon that points to the right, and I want to see that on the right-hand side of my screen for the visualization of this menu item. Okay, so I got my first item. I'm going to create a second one for money transfer, and that should be it just for the sake of this demo. So this will be money transfer. I'm going to create a new module for transfer. I'm going to reuse the under construction output object. So this shows, again, how we are object-oriented, and you can reuse objects that you have built before. So here it is. I have dragged the under construction output in the flow of the transfer module. Okay, I also want the right icon on the right-hand side, and I want this to say money transfer. All right. That should be it. So if I go back here, I now see the business flow as I have it so far, login, and then main menu. With that, let me try to deploy this and test it out as a mobile application. So to do that, I right-click on my start and say test application. This will deploy it to my local CXP server, which is embedded in the Eclipse environment here. And up comes the test monitor. I can now either scan the QR code with my phone to run this on my actual phone, or I can use the phone simulator. Let me try that to start with. So there you go. There's our login screen. So it says login. It presents two input fields, and it presents an OK button. I don't want to use the device simulator at this point. I actually want to use the iOS simulator that comes with Xcode, with the Apple product. So let me try to to do that here. I should probably have closed this. Let me try to move this over right here. All right, so I'm going to go to Safari, and I'm going to basically point my Safari browser here to a particular URL that serves the first page of my application. So don't worry about that. There you go. So now I have my login. If I click into the 8-digit account number field, you can see how the numeric keypad comes up. So I can now type in my information here. If I type in here, you see how the password capability is shown. I click on OK, and I end up in the main menu. Now I can see the account balance and money transfer. I can see the icon right. If I click on account balance, I see the under construction. I can go back. Same thing for money transfer. I see that there's a black bar here at the top that doesn't have any content. So this is the title bar. If I want to add something to that, what I can do is actually go back to my application, go to the start module, and add a title. Let's call this Voxeo. I'm going to save this, and now I want to apply my change. So all I have to do is click redeploy, after which I can again go to my simulator here and essentially restart the session. Let me actually show you that. I did add this to the home screen, so let me show you how that looks. There you go. So now we have Voxeo here in the top title bar in our login screen. All right, now I promised you I will turn this into an IVR app as well. So let me try to do that. So far, I've edited this application in web view. So I'm going to change this to all view, in which view I can actually edit both the web relevant and the voice channel relevant settings. Let me actually also show you how switching the view changes what I see in the object palette. So if you're in the web view, for instance, you see that under actions, you only have hyperlink and exit. All the others are really not relevant. They're only relevant in the IVR channel, where you now have pause, recording, and transfer, which are truly, voice-related objects that aren't applicable to the web channel. So we really, turn the whole IDE over into a different one, depending on which view you're in. All right, so to turn this into a voice application, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do something slightly different for the login step, because the login step in web asks for both account number and PIN. In the voice channel, you want to do that step by step. So I want to turn this login here into a web-only login object. So to do that, I open it, I go to pre-post processing, and say, the channel condition for running this is the channel is web. So if I do that, this object is now preconditioned, and it only executes if the current channel is web. So it will be skipped if I'm in the voice channel. So for the voice channel, I'm going to create a different login, which basically does it step by step. Okay, I just get a note that for some of you, the screen seems to be frozen. Okay, we should now be back. All right, great. So I'm going to call this input get account number. Let me add the word voice here so that it's clear that this is an object only relevant for the voice channel. In the voice channel, I want to greet the caller first. So I'm going to define welcome to Voxeo Bank. To start, please enter your 8-digit account number. As my grammar, I will now define a voice grammar and a touch tone grammar as well. Don't worry about the details here. I just want to get this done so you can experience this as a IVR application that follows pretty much the same flow as my my web application. I'm going to reuse the variable I created for account number, so I don't have to recreate that. So put that in here, and that's pretty much it. So now I have a step that is only relevant for voice. Well, let me actually tag that with a precondition of channel equal voice, so to make sure that it's not excuse me, not executed while in the web channel. Okay, I could do the same for the PIN, but let me skip that for now. And what else do I need to change? I need to change the presentation layer of the main menu, but only slightly, because I can reuse a lot of the things I defined. Obviously, I want a different way of announcing the main menu. I don't want to use a header tag and just the word main menu. So I'm going to create another output item here, tag that with channel voice, and say, this is the main menu. Please choose one of the following options. Okay, that's great. Now the options themselves, I already have my account balance presentation, and I can reuse that for voice. Same thing here. And the only thing I want to do is I want to auto number this for touch tone so that I can press 1 or 2 automatically. Awesome. That should be it. So let me try to redeploy this application, and let me go to my SIP phone. And instead of using this as a web app, I'm now going to call into this application. Let me try to see if that works.
Welcome to Voxeo Bank. To start, please enter your 8-digit account number.
1234 1234. All right, so it did greet me. It did go through the account number step. It didn't present the main menu for some reason, so let me try to see what happened here. I did enable tracing for this call, so I can now go in and actually follow the steps that were taken here. Oh, I think I know what's going on. Let me actually go back. I have to actually make sure that this is not only a menu item for the web channel, but also for the voice channel. So I need to change this channel setting here on the menu items. Otherwise, if there are no menu items, there's no point in presenting the greeting message. All right, so let me try to redeploy that change. And again, call this through the SIP phone. I'm using a local installation of Voxeo Prophecy, which is our IVR platform, which comes with free US English speech recognition and text-to-speech. So that's what you're hearing, and that's why it can understand my voice. Let me try that again.
Welcome to Voxeo Bank. To start, please enter your 8-digit account number.
1234 1234.
This is the main menu. Please choose one of the following options. Account balance. Money transfer.
Account balance.
Under construction. This is the main menu. Please choose one of the following options. Account
Money
balance.
transfer.
Under construction. This is the main menu.
All right, so I hope you could hear that. So it did announce the different options. I could follow through the different flows. If I look at the trace of this call, you will now see the different steps I took. So it started in the get account number input object. It went on to present the main menu. And then in here, I said the words account balance, which was recognized with 38% confidence, rather low. But it correctly announced the under construction wording to me. It went back to the main menu. I then said account balance with 37%. Again, it played that, and I then hung up. So you can follow along the steps here in this trace viewer tool. You can actually do the same in my mobile session as well. So again, if I go back here and run through the application as a web session, you should then be seeing the same flow essentially, but just rendered as a mobile app. All right, excellent. So if I go back to here and I refresh the trace tab, I can now follow the same flow of the user, but in this case it was a jQuery mobile web session, as you can see here, and I can actually also inspect the rendered output. So you see here that the server rendered HTML for this page and did the H1 for Voxeo and then the different menu items here. All right, excellent. Let me close that out and switch over to showing you quickly the Smart Health application, which is our new showcase app we will release with CXP 13, we already have an early adopter version of this available for those of you who are interested. And thanks to those of you who have participated in the early adopter program. We've got a lot of good feedback on CXP 13 from you. So the Smart Health is a healthcare application that gives you options like managing your appointments with your doctor's offices, with your clinics, managing your prescriptions, finding the nearest branch, the nearest office, the nearest clinic, etc. So this was implemented, by us in CXP 13 to showcase some of the functionality of 13. It was designed again by our partner Waterfield Technologies. So thank you for helping us with the design of this application. So let me show you how this looks. I'm going to use my iOS simulator here, but what I want to do is I want to show you the process of how I would add this to the home screen of my phone. So when I enter you the first time, you see the Smart Health login screen, and you see that there's a widget here flying in that says install this web app on your iPhone. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to click here, add to home screen. You see that we have our Smart Health logo also in use here. I'm going to call this Smart Health, and this will be a bookmark now. I already did that before, so I have it double. Let me delete this one. A bookmark on my home screen. So now, instead of launching it from Safari, I can launch it from the home screen, in which case the URL bar at the top is being hidden, as well as the navigation buttons at the bottom. So now it looks like a mobile app essentially. I can now go in, enter my details. There's a switch here for remembering my login. HTML5 does provide offline storage capabilities, so you can implement features like remember the login, or you can also implement such that once you're logged in, you will actually see your prescriptions, see your appointments also in offline mode. So this is how the main menu would look like. I can go into prescriptions, for instance. I would see a list of prescriptions. This was implemented using our input object, showing a list view. So I see all the ready for refill medications. I see the RX number, the name. I see how many pills are in there. I can get details on them by selecting them. So there's some sections here for uses and side effects, which I can expand and close. So a lot of that functionality, again, is built through just our output, input, and menu objects. As you can see, we have now embedded some buttons here in the top bar. So I can go back to prescriptions by clicking here, or back to the home screen by clicking on the home screen. We also built out in this demo the appointment screen. So you get to see the upcoming appointments with your doctors, with a little nice calendar view here, checkup at 11:30 a.m. If you select that, you will see a map of to get locations with Google Maps or Apple Maps. See the address, you see the details of the appointment. You will be able to configure SMS reminders for the appointment once we have fully built out this Showcase app. You can cancel or reschedule, make a payment, or call the clinic, which will ultimately be an in-app phone experience where you don't actually leave the app to make the phone, but you're calling the clinic right from within the app. We're currently building that out again with the release of CXP 13, or shortly after. We will have this Smart Health application ready for you to try and have a look at. So that just give you a sneak peek at the capabilities of building out mobile apps, and in parallel building out IVR apps. I didn't show you the interactive text response capabilities, but that is another feature of Voxeo CXP. So if you're interested in that, please let us know, and we can dive in a little bit more detail on how this will work. To wrap up my presentation, let me go to the third section here, how to manage and evolve your self-service applications. Those of you familiar with Voxeo CXP, you know how we manage and help you manage the entire lifecycle of an application. So we give you front-end tools like CXP Developer, and also a business user interface, which I'll mention in a bit more detail in a minute. We give you tools for developing your speech grammars, your touch tone grammars. We have a dedicated tool for managing your prompts of your IVR application. You can auto-generate project documentation as a PDF file from whatever you have built out. We have a variety of testing tools, a debugger, the trace viewer that you saw, some phoneless testing tools for your voice applications, some load tester tools for putting your server environment under stress to see if it performs well, putting your backend systems under stress to see if they perform well under load. We got CXP Commander, which used to be called Control Center. This is our dashboard for the administrator, where you can see all the deployed applications, see status, memory status of all the server instances of your server cluster, get access to log files, trace files, etc. And finally, we have CXP Analyzer as our business intelligence environment to give you detailed, in-depth statistics and reports on caller and user behavior, performance, system performance, as well as metrics on business task completion rates and things of that nature. I do want to mention the business user interface. That's a very powerful tool that we introduced with VoiceObjects 12 last year. So Voxeo CXP 13 will also see this, and you can apply this to your web apps. So this is a web GUI that you can give to your business users, to non-technical staff, to get some control over your applications, be they IVR only, or be they IVR and app, or whatever channel you choose. You can add banners in your mobile app. You can control announcements like marketing campaigns. You can deactivate or activate menu items and buttons on your web apps. So as an example, let's say you want to announce, the opening of a new clinic as part of your network in the main menu. So you can simply do that using this interface and then offer a link to some further information. So this is the type of stuff you get to do, and this will be applied real time without the risk of breaking anything, really, because you only get, as a business user, that much influence and access to the application that is given to you by the IT department or by your developers in close coordination with them, of course. So that's a powerful tool to manage real time the look and feel of your applications. And obviously with that, you don't need to go through an app store to make a change to your app. I manage the analytics. We offer them cross-channel, so we give you insight in web usage behavior, IVR application usage behavior, etc. And we give you actionable multi-channel analytics so that you don't only get to see some numbers, some stats, but you really get to see data that helps you make educated decisions on how to improve and tune your self-service offerings over time. With 13, we're going to introduce an integration with Google Analytics. So in addition to the BI suites that we supported before, namely IBM Cognos, SAP Business Objects, and MicroStrategy, and Oracle BI, we now also support feeding into Google Analytics. That's an analytics framework that a lot of companies use, especially for their website and their mobile web pages and web apps. So we've integrated that with our notion of modules and business tasks, so that you get similar type of in-depth view on application behavior as you're familiar with from the old or the other business intelligence platforms. All right, with that, I just want to make the final announcement that Voxeo CXP 13 will be generally available April 30th. That's like 3 weeks out. We're working hard on putting the final touches on the release. Again, thanks to those that participated in our early adopter program. And with that, I'd like to open it up for any questions you might have. So if you have any questions, please enter them now into the questions panel of your GoToWebinar control panel. Well, if there's no questions on the product or on the release or on the announcement, then again, I thank you very much for attending today's sneak preview. Oh, there's one question coming in. Let me address that. Okay, there's a question here. Does this work with Avaya? That's a good question. So that refers to, I guess, to the IVR world. So yes, Voxeo CXP is actually agnostic of the underlying media platform as far as IVR goes. So we have what we call media platform drivers that can influence or basically that take care of running an IVR app across multiple different media platforms. So we do support Avaya, we do support, the Nortel and MPS, Genesis, Voice Portal, InnerVoice. There's a variety of media platforms that we support. So you can build out your apps in Voxeo CXP and run them on top of those platforms if you already have invested into them. Here's another question coming in. So when running CXP on top of non-Voxeo media platforms, is there a performance issue using this with non-Voxeo media platforms? No, there's not. So the drivers work the same, whether it's Voxeo's own IVR platform underneath Voxeo Prophecy, or whether it's an Avaya or Genesis or an IBM or Nortel or whatever it is. All right. Let's see what else do we have here. How long does it take on average to get trained on CXP to make a mobile app? Well, we do offer free training for our CXP products, which you can take here in Orlando, Florida, or in Cologne, Germany. So we have a 5-day class, which is a really soup to nuts on the CXP platform for learning how to develop applications on Voxeo CXP. We have some dedicated classes that you can take for specific areas of the product, like the analytics part, or building text applications, for instance. So if you're interested in that, please reach out to us at sales@voxeo.com, and we can direct your inquiry to the right department. What is the cost of Voxeo CXP 13 if I already have VoiceObjects 12? Well, while I cannot expose, or talk about particular numbers here, we are making a change in how we charge for CXP if you're using it for non-IVR channels. In IVR, we're still applying the per port license model. But if you're using CXP for non-IVR applications, obviously the port notion doesn't really apply. So we're offering a per server core pricing model when going with non-IVR channels. If you have questions, in more detail around, what it would cost you to upgrade or what it would cost you to get CXP for a particular size of your installation, then please get in touch with sales@voxeo.com. All right. Now the questions are coming in. So here's another one. Can I get CXP 13 in hosting versus on-premise? As a matter of fact, yes, you can. We are releasing CXP 13 in the hosted environment, the same release date as the premise version, so end of this month, in the staging network. So that's our network in the cloud that you use for developing and evaluating and testing. So we will release 13 by then, and we will have it in production about 2 months after that. So again, if you have plans to go cloud, and if you have plans to go mobile with CXP, then you will be able to soon use that and start playing with it in the cloud at the release date, which is end of this month.
Okay, and that is all of our time today. Thank you for joining us. We certainly appreciate your time, and thank you to Tobias for presenting.
Absolutely. Thanks all, and have a good day. Bye-bye.